Assalamu alaikum. There's been something I've been telling to people since October the 7th, when we go out and do dawah, that most in the Western world, most da'is or imams in the masjids and most Muslim people have noticed a trend that there's something that as us as da'is, us as propagators of Islam have not been able to do, which the Palestinians, amid their suffering, amid their crisis, have done. That is to spread the message of Islam exponentially, more than anything we could have done on our own, even if it was street dawah, online live streams, anything at all. The impact that the Palestinians have had for Islam has been exponential, and it shows every day. There are mosques, the bigger mosques are reporting that they're getting at least 20 people converting to Islam in a month. We have at our street dawah stall at least 5 to 6 people converting in a month as well. There are other places that give different reports, but everybody has reported that there has been an increase compared to previous years. And the majority of them, the people converting, is women, especially in the Western world, I would say. I don't know much about what's happening in Pakistan and India, but I could only say for Canada and the US. So what we're going to do is watch a video from a Australian journalist, a non-Muslim journalist. He did a report on this about 1 month ago. The video is not new; it's a 1 month old video. But let's take a look and see what he has to say about this.
Hello, I'm CJ Wellerman. Please don't forget to subscribe to our show. Now let's get into it. For the past 8 weeks, we've been given a ringside seat to the state of Israel and the United States behaving at their very worst in committing genocide in Gaza. But at the same time, we've been watching the Palestinian people at their very best, as they defy their oppressors with strength, humility, and unique bravery. But here's what really stands out. The religion of Islam is being universally praised for giving life and hope to the besieged Palestinian people, because the world now understands that any other people of any other religious faith would have surrendered or fled under the kind of death and destruction Israeli occupation forces have unleashed upon this predominantly Muslim population. The blinkers are off. Americans and Europeans are now decolonizing their minds in seeking the truth about Palestine and Islam, which is why many are now predicting that we will see a record number of mass conversions to the Islamic Western world next year in 2024. The writing is on the wall. The data is impossible to ignore. 2024 is shaping up to be a breakout year for Islam in the West, because Palestinian resistance has already ignited mass conversions.
This is something that's true, because we've had people, especially ladies, come up to us as well, and the only reason they've actually thought about picking up the Quran and either questioning us on it, questioning us on beliefs, or the Quran itself, is because of the Palestinian people. Because see, what the logic is that they look at the videos. If you haven't seen the videos, if you're somebody who hasn't seen the videos, which is impossible these days, you can go and take a look on my Instagram. I post it like every other day. Some video that comes on to my feed, I reshare it, I post it, repost it. Try to keep the algorithm going as much as we can. But this is what the women that we've talked to, that come up to us, the people that we talk to come up to us, say is they try comparing the situation in Palestine with something in America or Canada or in the Western world. So what they think is something so evil has been happening to them, and they still believe in God the same way they did before it happened. This is something that amazes them, because they didn't expect this ever to happen. They compare it to the U.S. or Canada, saying that if something like this had happened in our countries, we would have been the first to deny God's existence, or would have said, "Why us? Why is this happening to us? If something such is so evil can happen to us, then surely there must be no all-loving and all-powerful God, right?" So that's one of the main logics that's one of the main things that baffles them. So this is what makes them come and actually ask us, what is happening, why is this happening, and how is it that they are able to manage to deal with the situation there. And then the talks further progress into them asking for a Quran, and then asking what does the word Alhamdulillah mean, or what does Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil mean. As they can see, every other video, the people in Gaza are saying stuff like this. So that's a bit of a background about how it is actually on the ground as well.
in the United States, which we reported on in a recent episode. But these testimonies represent only a tiny snapshot of the total found on TikTok alone.
Like, we're being blocked. I'm not even a Muslim yet, but I just did my first salah from all of your help, and I literally started crying at the end.
That I basically, when I did that video, became Muslim, and I'm not gonna cry. I'm gonna cry. And I'm serious about becoming Muslim. I'm very serious. I was a devout atheist before, but I've done so much research on the Muslim faith, and it's so beautiful.
So I want to know if I'm meant to be a Muslim before I tell my family. And I have decided that I do want to be Muslim.
Palestinian resistance has also inspired mass conversions to Islam in Europe and Australia too.
So I've been feeling very happy, a lot of peace since I reverted 2 weeks ago. I reverted because of what's happening in Gaza, and I wanted to be closer to Islam and Allah.
أن لا إله إلا الله.
The strength and resilience of the Palestinian people, along with their deep faith in God, has not only awakened the collective moral conscience of the entire world, but also exposed every lie and negative stereotype set about Muslims in the Western media. You see, US war on terror propaganda convinced the West to fear any Muslim with a beard or turban, or any Muslim who practiced their faith in a devout or conservative way.
What you said about the beard and turban is true too, because so many times we have heard this happen when a Indian Sikh person is walking down the road, especially. I think this was a very common thing in the UK. I don't know about Canada as much. They would mistake to be Muslim, that they would start saying Allahu Akbar to them and stuff like that, because they think that a beard and a turban means automatically that you're a Muslim.
These lies and stereotypes were pummeled into our newspapers and onto television screens uninterrupted for 2 full decades. But it only took one glimpse, one fraction of a minute, to squash these falsehoods. And it came in the form of this Palestinian man who, after losing both his children to an Israeli airstrike on his home, showed the world that his people, through their faith in Allah, are gentle, merciful, compassionate, and kind.
وأنا بنظف فيها من غبرة القصر البريد، روح هي وطارق، الروح الثاني برضه الله يرحمه يا رب. بنظف وجههم بالمحلول الملحي عشان تروح الغبرة. فلقيت الحلق، عاد حلقها الثاني ضايع، فحكيت يا حلقك يا حبيبتي، بدي أطلع الحلق، بدي أخذه منك عشان يضل ذكرى مني. هاي حلقة بتضل معي، تذكرها فيه، لكن حبيت أنا أضل أتذكرها وأحطه هيك زي وسام، الله يرحمك يا ريت. فراحت الله يرحمه.
An online commentator asked, how many billions of dollars have been spent trying to demonize a face like this? How many media corporations have plotted to tarnish a man like this? And how many Hollywood films have been produced to make you terrified of somebody who looks like this? But just one moment, one clip, changed it all. He and his Palestinian compatriots are showing the world what Islam is all about. This is why a new poll...
If somebody hasn't watched the video of this old man, you might as well watch it. It's an amazing video. It changed the whole game and this whole narrative as well.
Shows that 78% of young Americans aged 16 to 35 now sympathize more with the Palestinians, with only 16% sympathizing with Israelis. And if you're sitting there thinking to yourself, okay, come on, CJ, how can one man possibly change the world? Then let me tell you this. The trajectory of the future is shaped only by a small number of immensely transformational moments that unite the collective conscience of the world and bend the moral arc of history towards justice. As was the case when Rosa Parks ignited the struggle for racial equality in the United States after she refused to give up her seat to a white man on a bus in Montgomery, Alabama in 1955. Her quiet act of protest against racial apartheid launched the bus boycott movement, which in turn invigorated the civil rights movement led by Dr. Martin Luther King and the great Muslim American Malcolm X, helping to bring an end to segregation with the passing of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. One person, Rosa Parks, changed America for the better. And we now stand at the precipice of a similar transformational moment, but one that speaks to the trajectory of the Palestinian liberation movement and Islam in the Western Hemisphere. And this trend will not reverse, because the world now understands that Islam is the #1 reason why the Palestinians will never be defeated.
انت بدك تطلعنا من دارنا؟ فشي مش راح تطلعنا يعني هاي ارضنا وعرضنا ودارنا، فيش تاخذها منا؟ لو شو ما بدك تعمل، شو ما بتجيب جرافات ماكينات، شو ما تجيب جبات، ربنا معانا، ربنا حامينا، ما دام ربنا معانا فيش إشي.
It's simply impossible to defeat a people who are unafraid to die.
How are you going to kill somebody like that? There's kids saying stuff like that. You cannot have that level of confidence unless you believe in a higher power and unless you believe that justice will be served, whether it's in this life or the next. There is no way. I've never seen kids being that brave, man. It's crazy. And this is just one video. The videos I've seen of kids calling out the IDF soldiers, and there's old videos from before October 7th where there's kids actually throwing stones at the IDF tanks and their soldiers as well, and facing them head on. It's crazy to see. They have no regard for their safety and their life when it comes to justice, when it comes to standing up for what's right. It's amazing to watch, man.
But this brings me to an important point, because whereas this deep religious belief became a source of propaganda against Islam in the post 9/11 era with suicide bombers and the like, Americans and Europeans are now envious of the Islamic faith for the way it has bestowed courage, defiance, and eternal optimism upon the Palestinian people.
So much faith and peace while their families are being murdered.
United States, we need a lot more empathy and understanding of Muslims in the Arab world.
I need to know what y'all put in Islam, okay?
When Americans and Europeans now think of Islam and Palestine, they think of a proud, noble people who take enormous strength from their faith in the face of unimaginable terror and deprivation. They think about this man who lost his brother to an Israeli airstrike.
مين استشهد لك؟ اخوي اللي استشهد، يعني عادي جدا والله امر طبيعي وبرد ما علينا، راح شهيد غيانا عند ربنا، بس انا بدي اياك توجه هذا الفيديو للاعلام كله ولحكام العرب بالتخصيص. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل في كل حكام العرب اللي شايفين الموقف ساكتين. انا اليوم فقدت اخوي، يمكن افقد نفسي بكره، افقد نفسي بعده، مش عارف، بس انا كل اللي بقوله انه اخوي راح شهيد والحمد لله وانا لله وانا اليه راجعون.
When Israeli warplanes deliberately bomb hospitals in Gaza, killing hundreds of doctors, nurses, and patients, Americans and Europeans now think about ambulance drivers who rescue the injured and dying, knowing they face almost certain death from an Israeli airstrike.
شكله آخر فنجان عصير فنجان مش كاسات.
والله ما في كاسات، بس عشان اموت وانا مرتاح. عشان ما ترعش وانا بموت.
والله شكله آخر كاسة عصير نشربها في حياتنا. غزة وباد يا جماعة. اللي شفناه في الحرب هذه في الحرب العالمية الثانية ما حدا شافه. والله.
أنا أعرف يا عم يوسف، بين الله. اشرب يا معلم عشان ترع وأنت بتموت.
الكاس الجاي وين حنشربها في الجنة؟
إن شاء الله يا رب.
This is the real Islam. This is the Islam that has been kept hidden from audiences by the mainstream media and Hollywood, which has exacted enormous profits from portraying Muslims as maniacal suicide bombers, belly dancers, and oil tycoons. But this era of anti-Islam propaganda is over. It's finished. Because the same old lies cannot be sold about Muslims to Western audiences, because the Palestinian people have shown a truth that can never be untold. This, however, doesn't mean we no longer live in dangerous times, because Israel and the United States government will not go down without a fight. They will dial up the Islamophobia to protect the slowly dying Zionist occupation, and we will see a steady upbeat of anti-Muslim animus from right-wing political parties. The recent election of Geert Wilders in the Netherlands, a notorious Islam hater who equates Muslims with cancer, serves as a warning shot of what lies ahead. But despite an uptick in anti-Muslim violence in the streets of Europe and America, the Islam haters will eventually lose and give up due to the sheer weight of numbers growing against them. Palestinian resistance has changed the world forever, and in doing so has shifted the trajectory of the moral arc of the universe towards justice. And for this reason, I predict future historians will mark next year, the year 2024, as the beginning of Islam's new golden age in the West. Anyway, that's my time for today. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and we kindly ask you please support our effort to expose and confront injustices in the Muslim world by becoming a member of this show at patreon.com/CJWellerman. This show is made possible only because of the support we receive from our patrons and YouTube members, and we can't thank them enough. It's just a simple reality that we can't produce, sustain, and grow the show without your help, and we offer exclusive benefits to those who do. But for now, good night, good morning, wherever you are, and stay blessed.
I'm gonna cut it off here. Well, there you go. You heard it directly from the man. Keep in mind that this journalist is a non-Muslim, and you can see how passionate he is about the whole thing, about the cause. And this isn't, he did not just start doing journalism on Muslim problems after October the 7th. He's been doing this for quite some time now, and he's been getting a lot of heat for it. He's been called a sellout. He's been called a Muslim under disguise, stuff like that. But he has explicitly said on his videos that he is not a Muslim. But this is something I wanted to highlight because this is something that a lot of people, especially in the Eastern countries, in Asia and Southeast Asia, are not aware is happening. So there's always two sides to a coin. There is always a good bright side to each and every situation. This is something that's in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it's in his control. We can't do anything about it. But the reason I'm highlighting this is even in times of chaos, the Palestinians have accomplished more than we could have ever done in no matter how many years we could have kept doing dawah. Just them saying simple words like Alhamdulillah, Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakeel, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, stuff like that, and praying and keeping their iman right and high, they have done more than we could have ever done. I know I keep on saying this, I keep on repeating myself, but it's very hard to understand unless you actually meet the people that have been affected, or the people that do come to you and start crying just because they've seen videos. This is something unprecedented. You do not find this happening normally in any other type of situation. But yeah, that's all for today. Inshallah, we'll try to come up with another interesting video soon. But this is something that I thought that needs to be out there. But that's all for today. Inshallah, see you next time. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.